Hello everybody and welcome to another one of my Magic videos. I kind of fell out of favor with these for a little bit just because of timing and everything, but here we are. I wanted to talk about a deck that I've been working on, and I have a confession. I am just a bunch of hipster trash to some extent. Any format I play, whether it be EDH, modern, whether it be, in this case, Oathbreaker, I accidentally keep building Caw Blade, and I don't know what to say about that. My shining moment in Magic, in terms of competitive Magic, was just playing in Caw Blade Standard. I did not get to play a lot of it, although I will say that I was smart enough to, the day they announced Mirrodin, Scars of Mirrodin. They announced Scars of Mirrodin. We had the Sunblast Angel art reveal. I bought 4 copies of Stoneforge Mystic because I figured this card is going to get better, and then it ended up getting banned. But I have such an affinity for that era, for that time, that I have written multiple articles for Hipsters of the Coast where I put Caw Blade into Commander. I look back at those, I think they were built on sound reason. I don't agree with the decks anymore. I think I built multiple ones for articles, and I understand where I was coming from. I feel like every time I try to reiterate Caw Blade, I always come back with a different thought, and that's what today is about. This kind of fell by the wayside, but in 2022, there was an announcement of the Magic the Gathering Content Creator Awards, and 2 of my articles got nominated. And I said that if I won either of the categories, I would buy myself a playset of Jace the Mind Sculptor. A year went by, the ability to put the show together kind of fell apart. I said, you know what? I just feel honored to have been nominated. I'm going to get myself 1 Jace the Mind Sculptor, and if this ever comes to fruition, I will buy more. That gesture means a lot of different things in 2019 versus 2022 versus 2025. The Jace the Mind Sculptor, I don't know about the price point now. I feel like he's probably sub $20. He's not the 3 figures or close to 3 figures card that he was a decade ago. That's fine. I still love Jace the Mind Sculptor, and so when I went to go build an Oathbreaker deck, because I figured that's the one place I was going to be able to use him, I could play him in Commander. I don't really have a good place to do that, so I was like, oh, I'm going to build Oathbreaker. And time again, no matter how hard I try, I accidentally keep building Caw Blade. And so that's what today's video is going to be about, is just exploring where the deck currently sits, because in the last 4 or 5 months, this deck has drastically changed slots over and over again, gone into different things, and the signature spell has changed multiple times. I don't even remember what some of the other options were, but I ended up on Memory Deluge. So let's just talk about these 2 cards. We'll move into each one of the different packages, and I'll talk about how they relate back to Caw Blade in different ways. Obviously, we've got Jace the Mind Sculptor, a 4-cost Planeswalker. His +2 is look at the top card of target opponent's library. You may put that card on the bottom of that player's library. His 0 is draw 3 cards. Put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. His -1 is return target creature to his owner's hand. His -12 is exile all cards from target player's library. Then that player shuffles his hand into his library. Right up front, I'm going to say that his +2 and his 0 are the things that I frequently use the most. Obviously, you make the call if you're going to do the -1. In multiplayer, it's not as effective, but I guess the thing is, at the end of the day, we're not looking to build a super powerful deck. We're looking to celebrate Magic history, and so I'm not looking to be the oppressive person at the table as much as everybody assumes when I pull out this deck. They assume that Jace the Mind Sculptor, he's going to be the problem child, and it's like, please understand, I'm going for theme over power. It kind of is just consider his abilities from the top to the bottom. I'm probably never going to -12. I'm not going to -1 that often, but I might 0, and I'm probably going to +2 on the regular. I ended up on Memory Deluge, which is a card that people may not be very aware of, but it is a 4-cost instant. Same casting cost as Jace, ironically, and it has look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast the spell. Put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom in a random order. Nice thing here is that because both of these are affected by commander tax, this is always going to scale up to how many times you've played it. That was the most appealing part, was really I was looking for a spell that cared about how much mana I spent to cast it, and so There were other options. None of them kind of fit, but I liked the ability to, first of all, memories just as a thing with Jace is kind of a thematic tie as well, but I liked the ability to have a signature spell that allowed me to do some card filtering, because I have other card filtering cards in the deck, but this was a reliable way to do it. At a casting cost, it's like, okay, well, now that I've gotten Jace out, obviously I have the mana to do Memory Deluge. Let's go to town. Beyond that, these are kind of just the pillars of the deck. When it comes to actually playing the deck, I don't even know that Memory Deluge gets cast more than twice, but also games tend to end quickly. You are just target number one when it comes to Oathbreaker for some reason, just because you have Jace the Mind Sculptor. I've seen so many other powerful things. I don't understand why I'm the baddie. But let's get into kind of the rest of the core of the deck. So one of the famous things about Caw Blade was that you had Stoneforge Mystic, who would go and get you whatever artifact you were looking for. In that same vein, I have multiple cards. I ended up having 5 cards total that emulate Stoneforge Mystic, at least in terms of the equipment tutoring part. So we've got Fabricate just as a way to grab a artifact card from your deck. We've got Trophy Mage, 3-cost human wizard for a 2/2 that when it comes into play, you go and look for an artifact with casting cost or 3 converted mana cost. We'll get into my equipment in just a second, but basically I tailored which of the TR mages I was getting based around what I actually needed to do. We've got Reality Anchor, which I think is actually a really good card. I've been more and more pleased with this card every time I play it. I have so much crud on these sleeves. This tells you how much use I get out of this deck. This is my Oathbreaker deck. This is my solo Oathbreaker deck. So we've got Reality Anchor, Anchor to Reality. Gosh, got Anchor to Reality as an additional cost to play this spell. Sacrifice an artifact or creature. Search your library for an equipment or vehicle card. Put that card into the battlefield. Then shuffle. If it has mana value less than the sacrifice permanent's mana value, scry 2. This is really convenient. I don't have a lot of artifacts that I'm going to be sacrificing that are going to trigger that scry 2, but it's also possible that late into the game, a really high cost equipment that I have is not going to be able to help me, and so I can go and grab a smaller equipment that is going to be tailored to what I'm doing. Obviously, the equipment is the next thing we'll talk about, so we'll get into that more and more. But it is possible that I will get the Scry 2. I have not necessarily seen a whole lot of that, just because generally what I have out, like the higher the mana cost, the more valuable it is to me, but that doesn't mean that within a moment you can't kind of make that call. We've got Whir of Invention, a late include into the deck. I kind of danced around this card for a while. I don't particularly remember if it was because I didn't think I had any, and I actually did have one stored away in a deck somewhere, or a pile of rare blue cards. I don't remember. This is a card that I danced around for a while, but it is a X and blue for with Improvise, where your artifacts can help cast this spell. Each artifact you tap for this reduces it by 1. I don't know how popular Improvise is now. It's actually a pretty cool ability, and I don't have the sense that it's one that has a lot of attention. But then you search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost X or less, put it onto the battlefield, shuffle. So it's just a, I guess it's kind of like Fabricate. It's really what it is Tinker, in one form or another. That just helps you to get out your artifacts. Obviously, this can, if you're really, at the point that you're doing blue to go grab an artifact land, which I'm pretty certain I have, you've hit a bit of a wall, and I don't know how to help you there. Obviously, we're going to be using this to hopefully go grab an equipment of some kind, and yeah, that's pretty much it. We're using this as just an instant way to, at the end of a turn, put the equipment into play that we need the most. And last card we have is Deadeye Quartermaster, a 4-cost 2/2 human pirate, and when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an equipment or vehicle and put it into your hand. So again, just emulating Stoneforge Mystic in that way. So these are just mono blue Stoneforge Mystic proxies. But yeah, overall, I like these. I like the fact that similar to Stoneforge Mystic, we have bodies that the equipment can then go on to. These aren't necessarily the perfect bodies that you want. You're not necessarily looking to equip these up. These pretty much become chump blockers at some point, or just a way to come into play, Maybe they get in an extra bit of damage. They're probably not going to have the equipment attached to them next turn, but you never know. But yeah, it is nice to have bodies. Similar to the Caw Blade deck, we did include Basilisk Collar, just a 1-cost equipment that gives Death Touch and Lifelink and equips for 2. This is one that if you go grab it with your Stoneforge Mystic proxies, this could get attached. And I don't recall if there's really anything that's necessarily taking advantage of the Death Touch and Lifelink. We're really just using it as a way to get us life back, because we are, for some reason, we are numero uno on the chopping block, again, because we have Jace the Mind Sculptor, and any way to gain back some life is always going to be nice. Then we've got, actually, let's do both of these. So Caw Blade was pretty famous for having swords of X and Y. I have Sword of Feast and Famine and Sword of Fire and Ice in here as what I think is probably the best two. This helps us to cover the protection colors that we need, and I would say probably do the most good. I did have Sword of War and Peace in here at one point, and I think of all of them, I don't know that I've used any of the new Modern Horizons ones. These were the two that stuck, that really felt like they were doing the most. Sword of Fire and Ice gives you +2/+2, and protection from red and blue. And whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, Sword of Fire and Ice deals 2 damage to target creature or player. That now, I believe, also can hit planeswalkers. This is just old wording. And you draw a card. Sword of Feast and Famine, +2/+2, protection from black, protection from green. And whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card, and you untap all lands you control. Feast and Famine is a beast of a card, let me just say that. I think anybody who has played with them, anybody who remembers, 2011 Standard can certainly attest to that. These are so great, especially because we want to be playing at a fairly good instant speed click, and just being able to untap all your lands is great. It allows you to play out another sword if you want to, or another equipment, and or just have mana up for a counterspell. Then we have Umezawa's Jitty, a card that I have had since like 2004 was when this came out. I've had this right out of the rat tribal deck that it came in during Betrayers. Pretty famous, but it is a 2-cost equipment. Legendary artifact equipment. When a equipped creature deals combat damage, put 2 charge counters on Umezawa's Jitty, then remove 1 charge counter from the Jitty. Choose 1. Equipped creature gets +2 until the end of turn. +2/+2 until the end of turn. Or another creature gets -1/-1 until the end of turn, or gain 2 life, and it equips for 2. Yeah, this is, I don't want to say it's a broken card. It's not a properly balanced card. This gets out of hand very quickly. All you need to do is just get that one bit of damage in, and suddenly the question is, if you want to attack me, am I just going to give your thing -2/-2 with the charge counters? Am I going to give a blocker +4/+4? Am I going to do some kind of variant of that? Am I just going to accrue with them and then basically just gain 10 life out of nowhere? Another one of those cards that is definitely going to get you a lot of attention. I do understand. I have a lot of really powerful cards in this deck, but I am building around theme, so it's not necessarily as bad as it might look. And then we have Batterskull. We gotta have Batterskull in a Caw Blade deck. 5-cost equipment, living weapon, so it comes into play. It's gonna get a 0/0 germ token that automatically attaches to it. A quick creature gets +4/+4, has vigilance and lifelink, and I can pay 3 to return it to my hand, which just means that at the end of turn I can return it to my hand. If I've got my tapped germ token or tapped creature or whatever, return this to my hand, play it back out of on the next turn, and suddenly I've got a 4/4 vigilance. Because it's not going to be tapped because it has vigilance, but I've got another blocker. I've got another creature, what have you. If I have the ability to instant speed, I can instant speed in a 4/4 vigilance lifelink, and that's pretty cool. Moving on to the core creature package, and this was something that's been in contention. I looked for a long time trying to figure out my biggest goal in trying to discover what the creature base of Caw Blade was, because obviously the creature base in actual Caw Blade was Stoneforge Mystics and Squadron Hawks. And for a long time I thought, well, the Squadron Hawks, like they're 1/1 flyers. You want flyers. So I had just a bunch of like 2 or 3 cost flyers, and that wasn't really working out. And then I realized that, okay, what Squadron Hawks were doing was giving you card advantage. So I was having creatures that when they deal damage, you draw a card. I'll put a couple of them up on screen, and they've since come out. And what I realized over time was that really what I just needed was the hang up there was that all the ones that I had found cost 3. And the problem you run into is that the equipment also costs 3. So suddenly your third turn is getting really bogged up. And what I realized I needed was I just needed to find a package of 2-cost cards that did something similar. And what I've ended up with is realizing that I just needed I needed 2-cost cards that were hard to block. So right off the bat, we've got Jace Vryn's Prodigy, which is basically here to get us card advantage. It's not here to necessarily attack, although if you were to put a sword onto it, obviously it's going to be able to do damage. But, 2-cost legendary creature, human wizard, and you tap to draw a card and then discard a card. If you have 5 or more cards in your graveyard, exile Jace Vryn's Prodigy and return him to play transformed. He's just a second Jace Planeswalker, +1 of target creature. One target creature gets -2/-0 until the end of the turn, -3. You may cast a target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard this turn. If that card would be put into the graveyard this turn, exile it instead. And then -9, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, target opponent puts the top 5 cards of their library into their graveyard. I am not necessarily too worried about reaching this. I will naturally reach it at some point because that's just how Jace Vryn's Prodigy works. But right off the bat, just being able to draw an extra card and keep giving me options, because the biggest problem that I run into with this deck is running out of options, and so Jace helps with that. Then we have Skyship Plunderer, another 2-cost human pirate with flying, is a 2/1. Whenever Skyship Plunderer deals combat damage to a player, for each type of counter or each kind of counter on target permanent or player, give that permanent or player another counter of that kind. So this can just help because we will be adding extra charge counters from the Jitty. We will be doing other things. Trying to think, what was the other? Oh yeah, obviously adding more loyalty to Jace, making it so that -12 is something that is possible to hit. Got Ghostly Pilferer, 2 costs again, 2/1 Spirit Rogue. Whenever this creature becomes untapped, you may pay 2. If you do draw a card, whenever an opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, draw a card. That comes up in this format. Discard a card. Ghostly Pilferer can't be blocked this turn. So the point here is just that he is hard to block. That's actually been the theme of both of these cards. Both of these cards have flying. They're hard to block. You put a sword onto them, they're going to deal their damage. He's going to be able to get you some... he's going to accrue you advantage kind of out of... Why did I do that? He accrues you advantage out of step. And yeah, just overall fun time. Then we've got Thieving Skydiver. Again, 2 cost, 2/1. Human. Everything's a human. 2 cost Merfolk Rogue with Kicker X. X can't be 0. He has flying. When this creature enters the battlefield, as it would be enters now. If it was kicked, gain control of target artifact with mana value X or less. If that artifact has an equipment, attach it to this creature. So this is nice. Not only can you gain you can gain control of your own equipment, which in that case, I think you're kind of wasting mana at that point. It's like, okay, so it automatically attaches, but is the equip cost less than the cost of the thing? But the nice thing here is that other people have equipment or artifacts or whatever. You just steal them, and this is a nice thing to have. But yeah, just being able to fly, have the equipment attached to it, and take full advantage of that is kind of the point. And then last is Shoreline Looter. 1/1 for 2, a Rat Rogue. This creature cannot be blocked. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, then discard a card unless 7 or more cards are in your graveyard. Obviously, Jace Vryn's Prodigy has been helping to contribute to this, so hopefully we're building up a decent graveyard so that we can kind of get around that threshold. But yeah, this is where I've currently landed. Like I said, I had a lot of the 3 cost 2/2s that when they deal damage, you draw a card, and it just wasn't working out for me. And this has worked out for me better, just being lower to the ground, having that suite of creatures that is going to be able to evade in some form and get damage in, and it just helps to be on curve with the equipment that we have. But we're not going to win the game solely off of blue weenie creatures. We're going to need something a little bit bigger, and that's where 3 other creatures we have in the deck come into play. So we've got Soul Blade Jin, a 3 and blue for a Jin 4/3 with flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until the end of turn. So great. This is kind of an overlooked card in my opinion. I don't see a lot of it. I definitely saw it back in 2015 when this card came out. I saw a lot of this. It's definitely died off. I get it. It is an expensive card that doesn't do something when it comes into play. But we have enough non-creature spells in this deck that this is generally giving +1/+1 boost reliably. The nice thing is you can cast a counter spell, and suddenly on your opponent's turn you have buffed off your creatures. But if you're able to drop an equipment and then maybe have a follow-up of something else, you can get +2/+2 pretty reliably. And yeah, this is better than I was expecting. Then we have Serum Sovereign, 4 colorless and a blue for a Phyrexian Sphinx, 4/4 flyer. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on this creature, pay a blue, remove an oil counter from this creature, draw a card, then scry 2. This is very, very fun. This is another one of those, like, I'm using Jace Prodigy or the Shoreline Looter to draw cards. This is just another way to draw cards and get more deck filtering. This has helped out so much. The version of this deck that did not have this was worse off for it. Like this, it is expensive. And by the time you get to the point where you're casting a 5-mana spell, have you probably used up some of your non-creature spells? Sure. But if you can just get even 3 counters onto this, can be so fruitful. And at the end of the end of step before your turn, if you can just draw a card, scry 2, draw another card, scry 2, draw another card, scry 2, you've found something that you're looking for. In response to a spell you don't like, draw a card, scry 2. Maybe you already had the counter spell in your hand, but now you can kind of mess with your opponent's head by being like, oh look, I found a counter spell. Cool. Yeah, this is just great for mind games. It's great for card filtering. I love it. And then last of my Phyrexian Sphinxes is Defiler of Dreams, 3 generic blue for Phyrexian Sphinx, 3/4 or 4/3 with flying. Are they both? Oh no, okay. They all have 4 attack. They all have 4 power, which is important. 4/3 with flying is an additional cost to cast blue permanent spells. You may pay 2 life. Those spells cost blue less to cast if you paid life this way. This effect reduces only the amount of blue mana you play. Whenever you cast a blue permanent spell, draw a card. Again, just a way to draw more and more cards. This does care about permanence, which is a little bit less fruitful than the other 2 cards we talked about. Non-creature spells are definitely something we're doing more of, but if we're able to just get this out and then suddenly, we can bounce back from some removal by, obviously we can't bounce back from mass removal, but if we can just get out one of our 2 cost things for 1, that gives us more ability to equip something. And yeah, just overall, this draws us more cards. Definitely, if there's anything that I wish I had in this deck, I wish I had it's a sorcery, old sorcery that shuffles your graveyard back into your deck, and I forget what it's called. Reminisce, I think. I don't remember. I'll put it up on screen. But yeah, this I have the ability to draw through my deck pretty easily with this package of cards, and yeah, I've also been impressed with Defiler of Dreams. Moving on to our removal, because Caw Blade was very big on its Wrath of God effects. We have Inundate, 3 blue for sorcery. Return all non-blue creatures to their owner's hand. We do not have any artifact creatures in this deck, so this is never going to touch our creatures. And this is a removal spell that I don't see a lot, and it's just perfect for this deck. It is expensive. There's no way of getting around it. It is expensive, but also expensive removal should be good, and I think this is pretty good. We have Aetherize, 3 and a blue for an instant. Return all attacking creatures to their owner's hand. This has turned the tide of games many times. It can be very political. Oh, you're going to attack this person who I don't actually think is the problem. I am going to return all of your creatures to their hand. Oh, you're going to attack me? I'm going to return all of your attacking creatures to your hand. And then hopefully I have I have counterspell backup so that you can't just stop me. But yeah, this has also been nice. It is a blue way of being mass removal, and I definitely appreciate it. And then last card is Devastation Tide. 3 blue for a sorcery. Return all non-land permanents to the owner's hand. Miracle for colorless blue. We have the ability to draw cards off turn, so this can be very nice to just miracle. We already know what the top card of our deck is because we've been scrying, and we just draw a Devastation Tide off the top of the deck. Maybe we brainstormed it back on top with Jace's 0 ability, bounce everything back. Yes, you do reset. I am one of those people who I learned a long time ago that you need to do this kind of effect with a lot of discretion. I, to the best of my ability, do not want to just reset the board if I don't have a game plan. There was an angel from Invasion Block that I kind of keyed into about 15 years ago. It had kicker, and if you didn't kick it, you just destroyed all creatures. If you kicked it, you only destroyed creatures you don't control. I played that card, and I kicked it, and I would destroy everybody else's cards, but then all I had left was that angel. And suddenly, I'm playing multiplayer, so it's like, hey, it was 60 card casual, but it's like everybody has 20 life or 14 life. And now I've just got I think it was like a 4/4, maybe I had 5 power. It wasn't enough, and I was just destroying all creatures, but I didn't have a game plan. A card like this, obviously you want to win the game, but I want to do it in a way where I'm like, if I'm returning everything to everybody's hand, I want to be able to bounce back, and I want to be able to at least push the game forward in a way, and not just reset the board. And maybe that is just maybe I'm not blue enough. We got 2 random cards here. We've got Vidalcan Orrery and Leyline of Anticipation. Both of these are going to allow me to cast my spells with flash, which means that the sorceries that we've looked at are not going to be just exclusively sorceries. This will come in, if it's in my opening hand, this will just come in whenever I feel like it. These are just really helpful. I wish there was more effects like this, but then I think if there were more effects like this, it'd probably be more toxic, so I'm kind of fine with just having the 2 options. In terms of additional card filtering, we have Impulse and Fact or Fiction. Impulse, for 2, it's an instant. You look at the top 4 cards of your deck, put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Fact or Fiction, you reveal the top 5 cards of your library. An opponent separates those 2 cards, or separates those into 2 piles. One pile into your hand, the other into your graveyard. These are just great because they get you to look at multiple things. You can try to leverage maybe an alliance, or maybe you can leverage a lack of information, a bunch of misinformation that you put out there, and just try to get the best pile you can. And sometimes you get somebody that just says, 1 and 4, 0 and 5, $1 and 5, whatever. But yeah, these are just here for card selection. Obviously, if we're talking about Caw Blade, we're talking about being able to do a reasonable amount of counterspell backup. And one of those ways, back in the day, was with Mana Leak. Instant, counter target spell unless the controller pays 3. This was the basis for how I was going to handle counterspells. I could very easily just do a bunch of counterspell variants, like just blue counter target spell. I wanted to do Mana Leak. I wanted to have soft counterspells. It just felt more thematic. Again, I'm trying to go for theme, not power level. So that means that we're also going to be doing Spell Pierce, which also was in the original Caw Blade deck. It is 1 blue instant counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 2. In a format with Planeswalkers being the marquee card, this is pretty much always live, I would say, on the regular. We got Miscalculation, colorless blue for an instant. Counter target spell unless its caster pays an additional 2, or cycling for 2. Just very similar to Mana Leak. Having that cycling is nice because sometimes you just need to cycle to get yourself an extra option. The counterspell is not as important as just card advantage. And then last card is Lose Focus. A card that I'd kind of forgotten about, but generic blue, instant replicate blue, so you can just pay blue as many times as you want. Counter targets spell unless its controller pays an additional 2. So if you want to, you can just sit there and be like, okay, I'm going to lose focus, and we're just going to kick it, or we're going to replicate it 3 times. So it's countered unless you pay 8. You just bring the hammer down. Yeah, as I said, these are not the most powerful counter spells, but they were built around trying to emulate Spell Pierce and Mana Leak as much as possible. And that's where I ended up, with a bunch of soft counter spells. And I'm fine with that because I don't need to be the problem child at the table. Moving on, we also wanted to try to emulate Everflowing Chalice as much as possible, and I tried Everflowing Chalice. I just kept running into situations where it just, in multiplayer, it's just not good enough. As much as I would love for it to be the case, it just was not good enough. So where we ended up in terms of just mana rocks is we've got Thought Vessel, 2-cost artifact. You have no maximum hand size. Tap to generate a colorless mana. Got Sky Diamond, 2-cost artifact. Enters battlefield tapped. Tap to generate a blue mana. Got Soul Ring, 1 cost. Generate colorless. I think we all know this card pretty well. And then we've also got Sapphire Medallion, which just reduces the cost of my blue spells by 1, and it costs 2. So it's kind of doing the same thing. Oh my god, these sleeves! Again, I do not really mind if the sleeves have junk on them, because it means that I love this deck. But yes, similar to the Defiler of Dreams, this is just another way to make my blue spells cost a little bit less. If I'm able to just pay 2 life to put out the Shoreline Looter or whatever, because I've got Sapphire Medallion and the Sphinx, that's pretty cool. Not to mention, this isn't just about permanence, this is about all blue spells, so suddenly my my counter spells cost blue, which is pretty nice. And then last thing, we have a whole bunch of islands. Need those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 islands. I think that's pretty good. But then we also have the non-basic lands, which I think I did these in some form or fashion. Just reorganize these. That's pretty close. We've got the full suite of panoramas. I bet for some people, they have not seen these cards in a long time. They generate a colorless, but then you can also sacrifice them to search your deck for a basic island. Well, in this case, it's only getting us islands. But these are to emulate the fetch lands. These are just ways to shuffle our deck. We know what the top card of the deck is. Maybe we've done Memory Deluge and we've put the cards on the bottom of our library, but now let's shuffle it up. We've looked at the top X, now let's shuffle it back up. And these are just a way to shuffle our deck on the regular. Got Seat of the Synod and Darksteel Citadel, just artifact lands. They're things that we can go grab. They're things that we can sacrifice to Whir of Invention if we need to. And yeah, just overall fun time. I did have the, oh god, is it Trinket Mage that goes and gets 1 or less? I think it is. I did have that in the deck for a while to help go grab this or the Basilisk Collar, and then it just became like, sometimes it would just whiff because I already had the Basilisk Collar and I already had both of these. So these kind of went the way of the dodo. But yeah, just overall, just artifact lands. This one's indestructible, but just nice because they both add to anything that cares about artifacts, and then they're also just things that we can go and tutor. We've got Desert of the Mindful, and I'm trying to think, do we have another cycle? Oh, I guess we do. Okay, so we got Desert of the Mindful, which comes into play taps for blue, can cycle for colorless blue. We've got Remote Isle, same thing, taps, comes into play tapped, cycles for 2 colorless. And Lonely Sandbar comes into play taps for blue, cycles for just blue. Just another way to give us some card advantage. Halimar Depths, which comes into play tapped. You look at the top 3 cards, put them back in any order, and it taps for blue. This is just nice. First turn, you can set up the next couple turns. That's just nice. Reliquary Tower, you have no maximum hand size, generate a colorless. And then additionally, I forgot to kind of lump these in, but then we have Floodplain and Bad River. They come into play tapped. You can tap and sacrifice them to go grab a Plains or an Island card, and that would include additionally Mystic Sanctuary. We do not have any dual lands because this is not a deck that needs dual lands, but we definitely want to be able to go grab islands. We want to be able to shuffle up our deck. Mystic Sanctuary, obviously got it in the old frame, but it is a land island. And it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 3 or more other islands. And when Mystic Sanctuary enters the battlefield untapped, you may put target instant or sorcery from your graveyard on top of your library. So, put that miracle card back on top. But yes, that is everything. Like I said at the top of the video, my goal here was to not build a powerful deck. It was to celebrate Caw Blade. And every time I do, I come up with a new perspective that I want to come at it from, and this is just another one of those. Like, Caw Blade to me was a really great deck. It was all about accruing card advantage, about using equipment, about searching out equipment, and just being a really powerful mid-range deck. This deck is not perfect. I don't know that it's won an Oathbreaker game yet. But I always have fun playing it because it just reminds me of a simpler time when I just enjoyed the game in a different way, and when I cared about competitive Magic. It was before I really dove into Commander. I was definitely there day one with the Commander decks in 2011, and I definitely dove in full force in 2013 when they became a big thing. That magical moment when Caw Blade was the menace of the format, when Jace the Mind Sculptor was the menace of Standard, I'm right there with you. It was a different time, but I still loved it. And I love Jace the Mind Sculptor. And I hope to one day finish the playset. I'll have all 4 of them. Don't know what I'll do with them, but maybe I will frame them in some form. But then I guess that means I'll have to take this deck apart. I'm going to continue to work on this deck and tweak it, but for now, this is the way it looks, and this is the way that I enjoy it. Next time, I think I'm going to be talking about what was it called? The Forgetful Fish variant. I have made a Forgetful Fish variant, and I'd like to talk about it. So look for that probably in October. But thank you so much for your time. Have a great day, and you're doing great. Keep it up.